Here in Suffolk, Asda is not particularly convenient for me, so I don't pop in to browse their wine shelves. However, as a friend and colleague of Brian Elliott of Midweek Wines, I often represent him at trade tastings, and I attended the tastings in May and October this year of Asda, and I was particularly impressed with their wines at the sub £8 and sub £10 level. And it's good to see their wine atlas range back again, which is equivalent to the Found or the Discovery series from Waitrose and Sainsbury's. Ask any wine professional where great value wines can be found, and I'm sure Portugal will be mentioned by all of them. But the Portuguese wine scene is pretty difficult to navigate. There's lots of varieties of grapes, and even the common ones are unfamiliar to us. And very often the names are different from the same variety to be found in Spain. Fortunately, having got the tasting booklet from the press tasting, I have the details of the precise grape mix and also the residual sugar, and those I show in the following slides. Of particular interest is that the Dow wine has actually 60% sheen, i.e. the same grape variety that's known as Manthea in Spain, in a mix. And this wine is under their wine atlas branding, and it's 100% sheen or Manthea. Here's a map that shows the 12 wine areas of Portugal, and the 3 wines that we're featuring today from Dow and the Douro. I also, in the bottom right hand corner, make reference to the Porta 6 wine, which comes from Lisboa region. The story behind this wine is that some years ago the wine was featured on James Martin's very popular morning show on television, and he stated that this wine was one of the best wines he's tasted in the past 10 years. The result of this is that very soon the Majestic website crashed as everyone was scrambling to buy bottles of this wine, and it became their best-selling red of that year. And it remains popular. It's available on most supermarkets now. A word of caution potentially here is Porta 6 is over 13 grams per litre residual sugar, so it's almost a sort of off-dry red wine. I also show on this map the Vinho Verde wines and where they come from. Anywhere in Portugal where you go to Pinthos bars, the wine they serve you will be a sort of Vinho Verde. It's a very popular wine there, and becoming so now. It's a sort of fun wine to have on a patio on a summer's day. Now let's get pouring. As usual with these videos, Judith poured out some samples before I poured out for the camera here, and I taste them blind, and then we pour them out again, and I sort of taste them after confirming what they are, and then we have them with a mill, and because I stopper it up in half and quarter bottles, we also had them the following night with a mill, because I think the test of a wine really is to drink them with food. So a bit of feedback on the wines as far as I saw them. I think on first pouring, the 2 Dow wines tasted pretty similar actually, which I suppose is not surprising because the Dow wine, this one, was actually a mix of Touriga Nacional and but 60% of the sheen or the Manthea, and the other wine was 100% sheen Manthea, so it's probably not surprising they were quite similar, and their residual sugars were both about 6 grams per litre, so they had that smoothness that you get. With air in the glass, in fact, what came out a bit more is that the Dow wine, this one in fact, does actually have some oak in that, has oak staves there, and that gave it a certain seasoning. So both of them were sort of brambly dark fruit, but the Dow did have that sort of extra oak dimension to it, which wasn't too much, it's just a seasoning. So this was actually a pretty user-friendly wine that was a very good value for £7.50. The Sheen wine, again was dark fruits, but because there was no oak, it was stainless steel, it's a bit sort of brighter fruit on that. And again, very interesting wine, and that was £7, which again was pretty good, and is a similar residual sugar again. The Duru wine was a bit of a different thing, and I think that came out quite clearly in the blind tasting as being a sort of different thing. Here it's quite a mix of different grapes, as you can see, and the residual sugar was about 1/10 of the amount of the other two. So I think this is a little bit more serious wine, and in terms of my style of wine, I think the Dow wines were pretty user friendly. And I think some people that weren't dead keen on red wines would probably find those quite enjoyable. This is a little bit more serious, and it's sort of, it's not quite to the claret stages, but it is actually less ripe fruit. But what was interesting about this, because it had quite a mix of things, including some Tempranillo and the field blend in here, what I found with this is that although it wasn't quite so overtly ripe fruit, there's quite some nice spicy bits in the background here. And this is £7.50 again, which I thought was sort of cracking value. So all of these three wines are pretty good value, and I think it's a question of style. One thing which I will sort of mention is that I noticed in passing, whereas you don't very often get single varietals in Portuguese reds, they're usually a blend. I noticed that Marks and Spencer's do 100% Touriga Nacional wine. This is under their expressions, and I've got a bottle of this. So what I'll be doing in the next couple of days is opening this, and it'll be interesting to sort of compare this as 100% Touriga Nacional as against the Sheen or Manthea 100%, and against the other one which has a mix. My daughter pointed out that all my videos have been about red wines to date, so my next episode will be white wines. Until then, keep swirling, stay curious, and cheers.